The Stars and Stripes show is brought to you by the U.S. Embassy.
It's Gabs FM, power to engage. Well, this one is Mr. O and Leroy, and as well as Kennedy Thal. It's titled Give It To Me, and it's the track that we're going to open up the show. And in the building, I do have Mr. Kennedy Thal in the building representing Kai Isa Holdings. Re ala leteng.
We are very good. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. And it's nice to you wear so many different hats.
Many. I'm wearing one now and says the Stars and Stripes radio show from the American Embassy.
I like that. I like that. And of course, we have Emilia Adams, who is the U.S. Embassy Public Affairs Officer. How are you?
I'm great. Happy to be back.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You know, we should see you a lot more, Emilia.
I know. I'm just pulled in so many directions. But when I get to be back, I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. Well, welcome to the show. And today we're talking about fostering the spirit of volunteerism. Listen to this. With most of us leading super busy lives, the idea of volunteering, giving your time and energy to a cause without financial reward may seem like an impossible task. And you know, whether we like it or not, volunteerism is the first cousin of what I call social entrepreneurship. It is something that we need to do. It can carry us forward. The past 2 years have been very difficult. Imagine COVID-19. We've just got out of lockdowns, etc. But that also means somebody is going through a difficult time. And that is what we're going to be discussing today. Emilia, let me start with you. Have you ever volunteered?
Yes.
Walk us through your volunteering profile, for lack of a better word. Give it to us.
So I'm presenting my resume on volunteering.
Basically,
Right.
basically.
Well,
Talk to us.
You know, volunteering in the United States, it's part of who we are as a people. It's ingrained in our culture.
Okay.
And from a very early age, I grew up volunteering, donating clothes to less fortunate. On our Thanksgiving, and you'll see that former President Obama just did this as well. We would go in and work at a soup kitchen and serve food and meals to the homeless or others in need. So those types of things we grew up doing on a daily basis, constantly assessing our personal lives and seeing where we could just take from something that we have and we produce and share with others.
Yeah.
Other things I've done growing up, I've worked at animal shelters, walking dogs, cleaning up, helping to make sure that there's animal control. You know, when you're in Botswana or other places, even the States, and you see stray dogs, you see stray cats, and sometimes they're a risk to people's personal health, to public safety.
Yes.
Working at SPCA or other animal shelters helps to control that and takes care of the problem. Other things that I've done most recently is work on a community garden project that we're going to talk about a little bit later today.
Nice. Let me ask you, how old were you when you first started volunteering?
You know, I can't say an exact age.
Oh,
but,
estimation.
it's one of those things that you grow up always knowing because it's always around you. So 3, 4, I remember when I was a 3-year-old, my mother saying to me, we're taking items that we're not using to those less fortunate. And I'd go in my room and I'd pick toys that I wanted to give to other children. And it got to a point where it wasn't something that, you know, my mother or family members were asking me to do. I would say, I'm done with this. I would like to give. So can we take this? Or actually, my mom joked and said, I would give toys to my friends when they came over and say, I want to give this. And sometimes my mom would joke, say, well, we just got you that. So maybe not. But
don't over-volunteer.
Yes. But I think volunteering is something that's ingrained from a very early age for me. And I look for opportunities. I mean, some stuff seems traditional, like go to a soup kitchen, volunteer with animals, or, you know, help the elderly, or, go to a hospital. But I think you don't have to do formal volunteering or go to a formal establishment to incorporate volunteerism into your life.
Absolutely. Well, it's Gabs FM, power to engage your world, and welcome to the Stars and Stripes radio show, proudly brought to you by the U.S. Embassy in partnership with Gabs FM, America in Botswana, and we're talking about volunteerism. Kennedy, let me bring you into the conversation. Botswana, you've grown up on this side of the world and you're well traveled as well. But what does volunteerism mean to you, and why is it important? Why is this a conversation worth having?
Well, I think it is important, especially here, Botswana, that we build a sense of community and responsibility within our community and communities. And I think it is something that is very underlooked here in Botswana specifically. and it's something that we have room for improvement. You know, volunteering, like Amelia is saying, in the United States, it's part of the culture.
Yes.
And if we can bring that here, you know, there's so many things we can tackle. Just look at the littering problem, for instance.
Absolutely.
If we all had the social responsibility to take care of the littering in our immediate vicinity, not even in phase 2, if you live in phase 1, if everyone there just has that social responsibility to really just push themselves, we wouldn't have this problem that we have, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That would be definitely rooted in volunteerism.
Absolutely. Well, look, I've been to the U.S. I'm an alumni of one of your programs. And one thing that, just to add on to what Kennedy is saying, I do not remember the department, but I think there's a government department in line with volunteerism. And I went to that particular department when I was in the U.S. But one thing that I could see is that, you know, it is so important to ingrain volunteerism in your everyday life from a policy point of view as well, because we need to see and understand the importance of volunteering and the multiplier effects of volunteering. Climate change is a huge issue. Littering, I mean, the mask issue. We see masks everywhere. Day. Everywhere. And as you say, that's not city council's responsibility. It is a social and a citizenry that must take responsibility for that. So Kennedy, talk to me about what you do, why you're here, and of course, you know, in line with the spirit of volunteerism.
Right. So you did say that I wear many hats, and I don't need to talk about all the hats that I wear. I'm going to talk about the hat that I'm wearing in my capacity today. And so I'm here in collaboration with the American Embassy in Botswana. And what we want to really focus on is that we have built a community space, a community garden that, you know, the primary objective is to foster a spirit of community and social responsibility and volunteerism. And so what I'm here to do today is just to talk about this space and to make the public aware of this space, that it exists. And, you know, we have big plans for this space, Amelia and I, on behalf of the American Embassy in Botswana.
So where is this place? What are the terms and conditions of accessing this place, and, you know, those kind of things?
So the park is located in Extension 11.
Okay.
And as far as it being open, that will be divulged in the time to come.
Okay.
But what you can do is you most definitely can go on our website. It is mabogodinkugarden.com.
It's got a website. Wow.
Of course it has a website, and
That's
it is
fantastic.
live. And if you go on there, which we'll talk more about as the show progresses, you can get all the information you need on what it is this garden is, which of course we'll share today.
Absolutely.
And how you as a member of the community can integrate yourself into this space and make yourself valuable and an asset to this space, because that is what we need the most. And that's why we're here today, is to enthuse members of the public that this is a space that exists.
Yes.
Please volunteer your time.
Okay, nice.
To this space.
Nice. Well, it's Gabs FM Power to Engage Your World, highlighting the bilateral relationship between the U.S. government and the BW government, and we're talking shared prosperity, the importance of volunteerism. Amelia, let me bring you back into the conversation. Why is it important for young people to, you know, cultivate the spirit of volunteerism?
I think there's a number of reasons why young people should volunteer.
Yep.
One, for personal reasons. It develops a strong sense of work ethic, a strong sense of commitment to community, and a sense of belonging. Understanding that, you know, as Kennedy was talking about, you know, littering issues or problems in communities, you know, my son, I'd hope to foster in him. When we walk outside, he's like, there's trash on the ground. We should pick that up.
Wow.
You know, and that's because I want him to understand that just because there's something on the ground, we shouldn't expect someone else to do it.
Absolutely.
I know we pay taxes. I know there are government services.
Yes.
But volunteerism also shows personal ownership and responsibility for your community.
Absolutely.
So that's the first thing. Second, and we'll talk about this later when we talk about Education USA opportunities, but in the United States, if you want to study there, one part of integral and really important part of the application process is volunteering.
Okay.
You know, because it is such an important part of American culture, American universities and colleges want to see, as you are growing up and you are preparing your college application, what have you done to contribute and grow your community? Outside of it's one thing to get straight A's, it's one thing to get good marks. It's another thing to say, what's your value added for a community? Are you a good citizen? So I think those are two very fundamental parts. But also, volunteering is important for keeping the community together. I mean, there are gaps. There are gaps not only in Botswana, there are gaps in the United States. And volunteers step in to fill those things. We shouldn't expect and rely on the government to do everything.
Well, be the change you want to see. Absolutely. Kennedy, let's talk about, why is it important to advise young people to be volunteers? Why is it important to cultivate that culture? Why should, and the thing is, young people have a lot of energy. They have a lot more time. Why is it important for somebody or Motswana or go Kalahari or go Palape? Why is it important for them to adopt this frame of mind?
Well, like Emilia said, this builds character. And I want to give an example because I have a client that I've been working with in regards to landscaping that just moved back here. And she said something that I found really spoke to me. She said, and I'll say it first ka Setswana. Mo Botswana motho khona go hela jarata ya gagwe a ba sala matlakala a ba go atholela ko ntle. Maybe last na bothata go rela gore ene jarata ha linteng go sekolo go siame matlakala ha tswa ha wa go atholela ko ntle, right? And that is kind of the shift that we're trying to get. And just to explain for the non-Setswana listeners and for Emilia's sake,
thank you.
Yes,
is that what this lady was saying is that, often someone will clean their yard and then take that litter and dump it outside. And so long as where they are, their immediate space is clean, it doesn't really affect them if their vicinity outside of their personal space isn't clean, right? And this is what we're trying to speak to, is that sense and that feeling of commitment to the community at large, not just your personal space. And I think that's the character we're trying to build within people, is that you have a responsibility not just to yourself, but to the people around you.
Absolutely.
And if we collectively assume that responsibility, for instance, we won't have a littering problem.
Yes.
And it is impossible for us to even think of relying just on the city council to combat littering. If we,
Take
me as
responsibility.
Kennedy and Emilia and yourself don't take that responsibility and that initiative, right? And like she was saying, like Emilia was saying, her son saw just trash on the floor and felt the responsibility to pick it up. We need everyone's child to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have an issue of illegal dumping in Botswana. My kids go to school in Block 8, and there's a little double up that you can do through. If you drive in between that area, it is absolutely disgusting.
Right.
Where people come and, we don't do waste segregation in this country. So a plastic bag has everything from food to electronics to bottles, and you can tell that exactly what you're saying. Moto ohela jarata, make sure that their immediate vicinity is clean.
It's fine.
And then they take that trash and they illegally dump it.
Right.
So it is definitely an issue why volunteerism is important, and we've got to play our part. Being the change you want to see is an important component of what humanity needs to do. It's not a U.S. citizen or BW citizen. It's what we all got to do. And that is why, volunteerism must be brought back. I personally think that, we need to bring back that culture and learn from the Americans in line with policy, in line with your first job. For example, we need to say, in HR, your first job, let's look at what you've done in terms of volunteerism to boost your profile, because those little things create such a multiplier effect that tomorrow you birth what I call social entrepreneurship. And I believe that's something that you're doing. Let's talk about Maboro Dinku Garden. What is your role there? How did you get involved with that?
So basically what we did is we designed a garden in collaboration with the American Embassy here in Botswana. and the Gaborone City Council.
Okay.
And what this garden is, let me first just explain the garden itself.
Please do.
Right? It has many components. We have at the garden a lending library.
Okay.
And what a lending library is, which actually was Amelia's concept,
Wow.
is you can come in, you can leave books, you can take a book, right?
Okay, nice.
And so it is a community-driven initiative.
Yes.
You come in, you leave kids' books, you leave whatever books, and then someone else takes those books and leaves other books that they are no longer in need of. We have a learning center where we are planning to have children come and do outdoor classes.
Yes.
Outdoor classes on gardening, on the environment, on whatever, right? In that beautiful space.
Wow.
We have 8, right now as we speak, 8 raised vegetable garden beds where members of the community can come and cultivate these beds and grow and harvest and sell.
Wow.
We have a wildflower indigenous garden, right? So, sorry, we have a wildflower garden. These are separate things.
Okay.
Which is a garden of an assortment of wildflowers. And we have an indigenous garden, which comprise basically just of indigenous plant life. And so, you know,
So it's a space where one can also learn, one can, you know, and you know, there's a correlation between gardening and psychology, you know.
Right.
Young people are also stuck muntlung. They're always on TVs, they're always on gadgets.
Oh,
so
definitely.
this is a community project that says, look, mommy and daddy, you can bring the kids here. You can sit under a tree and experience, you know, what it is to be in nature. We have so many educational elements part of the garden, and the kids can do something on the other side, and who knows, you can have a picnic.
oh, for sure.
Am I capturing what it is and what it
Most
represents?
definitely. We have 50 different citrus trees that we've planted.
50. Wow.
And these are all different varieties. Different varieties of orange, lemon, shaddock, kumquat,
Wow.
navel, caracara, Washington, late Valencia. We have all the varieties. And what we want is for people to come into this space and take that in and develop a love for something that involves the outdoors, involves community and community building, and move people away from, like you're saying, just being on their devices.
Yes.
You know, I find that our devices sometimes are kind of the antithesis of community.
Yes.
They're very
Well,
me,
well,
my world,
yes.
what I am into. And we need our kids and adults to come into spaces that foster a sense of us,
Yes.
community, we, right? And the garden is that. The garden is going to be a space where people can come and volunteer. We're going to have a volunteer program running. Again, go on the website and check that out, where you can come in every Thursday and every Sunday, and you can just take 2 hours of your day that you could have spent watching a soapy.
Yes.
You could have spent scrolling Instagram.
Yes.
Right? But instead you can come into this space and hone a love for something.
Let me
learn. Right.
Okay, sorry.
No, interject by all means.
Just highlight the role that the U.S. Embassy played in creating this serene environment. What was the role of the U.S. Embassy in line with this? And Amelia, I'd like to ask you why. You know, why would the U.S. Embassy go and say, okay, let's invest in a garden, a community garden? You know, just explain to us the why.
Well, you know, this dream of a garden that is now a reality that we had goes all the way back to January 2021.
Okay.
This is in the middle of the COVID-19 isolation protocols that are, you know, happening in Botswana, all over the world. And the Public Diplomacy Office at the U.S. Embassy wanted to come up with a creative way to connect with people in person in a safe environment. So we came up with the idea to partner with the Gaborone City Council and come up with a community garden concept. So we met with City Council and we toured several sites and venues, and they identified a space that would be best to launch this project, and hence how we ended up in the Extension 11 Park to start the Mabohu Dinku garden project.
Wow.
So initially, it was to create a way for people to come together and commune. But on top of that, there are all these other added benefits. we wanted to create a space for people to come and volunteer and to be together and to be able to walk away with something that they added to, but also that they were able to carry. We wanted to create a learning space.
Yes.
There are so many fantastic indigenous plants and just products in general that can be generated here in Botswana that I found from my experience, my meetings, that a lot of the general public aren't even aware of. Hence why I wanted to work with Kennedy in curating an indigenous garden so that people can come in and understand where those plants are and hold classes on what you can do with them.
Absolutely.
Like looking at marula or some of the other products that could possibly even be exported. Beyond that, education is important. We talk about looking at phones. Hence the little lending libraries.
Yes.
These are libraries that encourage volunteerism because you have to bring a book. And you,
in order to get a book.
Yeah, or you can take, and then later on when you're done, bring it back. I don't want people to feel that they have to have something to give. But one thing about the garden is it's only going to work if the people that come in there make it work. So it's completely dependent on the community. This garden can be as big as Botswana wants it to be, or it can be nothing because people will not come and curate it. Right. We are hopeful that we'll fall somewhere in the middle or that we go even bigger than this because the community will embrace this space, take ownership, but most importantly, the community will make this garden what they want it to be.
It's powerful. The Stars and Stripes radio show and a beautiful model of what I call the shared economy. Whether we like it or not, we are part and parcel of the shared economy, and volunteerism works. It is something that, and I'd like to applaud the U.S. Embassy. I'd like to applaud the City Council and, of course, your entity, Mr. Thal. Well done for coming together and modeling what people can do under one common goal to say, look, when we work